Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sisuka Uvacha Tatascha Chapakanda Tatascha Palganda Vayashtritau Braje Babuvatusto Pashupala Sammato Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samam Padair Vrindavanam Punyam Ativa Chakratu. Shukadev Goswami said, when Lord Ram and Lord Krishna attained the age of Poganda 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Purport. Lord Krishna wanted to encourage his cowherd boyfriends who had been swallowed by Aghasura and then stolen by Lord Brahma. Therefore, the Lord decided to bring them into the palm tree forest called Talavan, where there are many delicious ripe fruits. Since Lord Krishna's spiritual body had apparently grown slightly in age and strength, the senior men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, decided to promote Krishna from the task of herding calves to the status of a regular cowherd boy. He would now take care of the full-grown cows, bulls, and oxen. Of great affection, Nanda Maharaj had previously considered Krishna too small and immature to take care of the full-grown calves, cows, and bulls. It is stated in Kartik Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, Shuklashtami Kartiketu Smita Gopastami Budhai Tad Dinad Vasudevo Bhud Gopa Purvam Tu Vatsapa. The 8th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik is known by the authorities as Gopashtami. From that day, Lord Vasudeva served as a cowherd, whereas previously he had tended the cows. The word Padai indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. The Lord wore no shoes or other footgear, but walked barefoot in the forest, giving great anxiety to the girls of Vrindavan who feared that his soft lotus feet would be injured. Omigana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishnam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, greetings from Brooklyn. We had a little technical glitch yesterday because I gave this class yesterday, and only the last 15 minutes somehow were recorded, which is an experience in itself, because after the class I kind of said, Great class, Maharaj. I'm glad this is recorded for my glories. That so many people could hear, you know. And then it was, gone. And I was kind of proud of myself because I'm learning detachment. You have to learn detachment. Because all pain is attachment. Pain means when your desires are not fulfilled. Either something comes into your world that you don't like, or you lose something that you do like. One sadhu in Vrindavan told me that the pain of death is not the physical pain. He said, because either you go into coma or they'll give you some painkillers. The pain of death is losing your attachments. So it's good to practice detachment. I gave a seminar on gratitude, and one lady that I know from coming yoga or maybe coming to the Bhakti Center, I knew that she took gratitude training. So I called her as a resource, and she had a lot of nice realizations. But she discussed how you can make a list of things you're grateful for, like every single day. Pick 3 events and see how you can extract gratitude in it. Or, wake up every morning and list things you're grateful for. But she was talking more, and I really appreciate the discussion I have with her. A state of being of gratitude. And discussing the trick is to be kind of neutral in the things that happen to you, so you could make impassioned responses to it. I mean, in a Krishna conscious sense, it means impassioned responses to it in relationship to seeing the non-duality of what happens to you in the sense that everything is Krishna's will. And therefore everything has a purpose. And that purpose is absolute, Anyway, that's basically the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So I think, 10 years ago, I would have thrown a fit. I just kind of, I'm a master of so many languages. C'est la vie. That's life. And then, of course, repeating the class, you don't want to exactly repeat the class because then it loses its dynamicism. For my next Monday morning greeting, I was looking at this book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink. And it's
here.
Yeah. And the power of thinking without thinking. And I call it, and it's something I'm aware about, it is called unconscious competence. That there's a level of thinking that works at a higher level than the conscious thinking. And when someone gives a class, they understand that to give a good class, you have to come to that level of thinking. That's why the worst thing to do is when you give a lecture is take detailed notes. They don't recommend you take detailed notes because you won't come to that level of unconscious competence. So that was and I know one of the strategies I have for giving seminars and classes is developing, looking at my notes and looking at what I'm doing in a way how I can get comfortable to come to that level of unconscious competence. So the fear I had today in giving the class is when you repeat something, it loses that kind of spirit. But at the same sense, my theme yesterday will say no. Because what my theme was, and the inspiration I had yesterday in reading the purport, is that how much dynamicism there is in the Bhagavatam. Because we consider the Bhagavatam not just ink and paper. It's something more than ink and paper. It's a message, and the message is God. And God is dynamic. And when you enter into a relationship with a person, it's more than you see. It's what they give you. And that almost has unlimited depth according to the relationship. So according to your relationship with the Bhagavatam, it has unlimited depth. And it can reveal so many things. And when I was reading the purport, because I've read it after so many times. This is one of my favorite pastimes to speak on. I can see how much more there was. And, you really get that experience of relationship. And because it's God, God can, there's no limit to what God can reveal to you. So the Bhagavatam, and I've always wondered this, it has an interesting factor that although it's the pastimes of Krishna, if you take for example, the most confidential pastimes, the pastimes of the gopis, there's only 5 chapters. What is that, 150 verses? But the Goswamis wrote volumes and volumes of meaning on that. So it's a very, very fine line. I was talking that before, how Prabhupada said when you meet associating with Guru is not just a electric shock, but it's not an intellectual process either. It's the use of the intellect in the service of Krishna. And when you use the intellect in the service of Krishna, then it's sarvasya chaham hidi sani vishto matasmatya jnanam apavanancha. I am situated in everyone's heart, and for me becomes forgetfulness, remembrance, and knowledge. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tvam yenama. For one who worships me with faith and devotion, I give them the knowledge. So it's this dynamic. And you can see if the pastimes of Krishna were just, well, they are actually in things like Govinda Lilamrita, but that's advanced studies. But and they're also based on the Bhagavatam. But if it's just written out, you can't just write it out because it's a person. It's reciprocal. So there's always going to be more than what's just there. And maybe it's not just explicitly written out right at the beginning of Bhagavatam in every single detail, because you'll still filter it through your intelligence. And it still won't be able to understand it fully. And therefore we know that the 10th canto, the confidential pastimes of Krishna, that is this 9 cantos. And what do the 9 cantos do? They purify your heart so you don't project mundanity, knows that word. You don't project your mundane conception on it. They give you knowledge so you don't project your mythological conception on it. You can see how you can look at the pastimes in different ways. But it's a reciprocation from Krishna that's so dynamic. And I even had the experience, many times, but I had this experience of studying the Shastra and seeing a profound, clear point that I'd never seen in any purports or commentaries. But they were so clear and profound. And then I understood, yes, There's so many things, unlimited things that are clear and profound that can manifest to you when you get a relationship with Shastra. And it's one of the most important things you can do. You want to develop love of Krishna, it comes from hearing. It comes from hearing the Shastra. That's the purpose of it. Anyway, I repeated this before, but the two things that I saw, that are so, revelatory and beautiful, is the relationship between the first and last verse in the Gita. Because the first verse is the materialistic vision. That's called expediency. You think you get ahead with a material advantage that goes beyond dependence on God by gearing your behavior towards what is right. What is right is not always seemingly a political advantage. That's why you see in modern politics, it's all lies. People have no faith. They actually had faith in God. They would do what's right and understand that Dharma leads to auspiciousness. So the first verse, Drita Rashtra Uvacha, Dharma Kshetre Kurushetre Samaveta Yutsava Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kim. What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do, desiring to fight? And he's looking at from where is the material advantage here? I have the bigger armies. I have the more powerful soldiers. If I accrue power, I will be successful. Forgetting that of the 5 factors of action, only one is the endeavor. What about the super soul? What about God? I mean, I've really tried, I have to say this, understanding the Shastra in my life, because you get into so many conflicts just naturally in life. Negotiating an institution, negotiating so many things, is always having faith in doing what's proper. Because you can always do something that gives you an advantage or something that's beyond Shastra. But it doesn't, the faith of a devotee is what you do, it's right, that will lead to what's best. So the first verse is that materialistic conception. He's looking at his armies, he's looking at their armies. And what is the last verse? The last verse is where there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and where there is Arjuna, the supreme archer. There is sure to be victory, morality, and opulence. Of this there is no doubt. The conclusion of the Gita is a spiritual vision of the world, where you choose God and you are successful. That thought, gives me, and I told this story before, the image of it's my mother's cousin. So it's kind of like my uncle. And he was a very, very dynamic rabbi. Had a PhD, I think, from Johns Hopkins, very educated person, very, very dynamic, very idealistic. And even though he had a military deferment, he joined the war. They made him a chaplain on the USS Dorchester. And to make a long story short, it was sunk by the German U-2 subs. And when they were getting off in the lifeboats, there weren't enough lifeboats. So the 4 chaplains of different denominations, they had the right to get off first, but they choose to get off last and give the things that could save them, because it's very cold there. My uncle gave away his gloves. He lied to one young man, I forgot my gloves, and you couldn't survive in the Arctic without them. He said, what about you, Rabbi? No, I have another pair. He didn't have another pair. That conception. And then they died as the ship was sinking, and the people who survived told the story. They saw them as the ship was sinking. The 4 chaplains, they're famous. There's actually, when I spoke at the National Cathedral in Washington, it was actually a stained glass window to them. So they died arm in arm singing the songs of David. Because it was right. Because it was right. And that's faith. That's faith. That you have confidence that if you take shelter of God and you take shelter of the principles of God, He will protect you. Even if the extent means of giving up your life. So anyway, there's so much in the Shastra as it reciprocates to you and it gives you mess. The other one that I thought, and I never read it before, but when I was studying the Bhagavatam, and I realized that in the 7th chapter, it's the first place that we see Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, the book about Krishna, the first place we actually see him is when he's on the chariot, driving Arjuna. And then I thought, oh, that's the same place we see Krishna in the book by Krishna. There's the book by Krishna, the Gita, and there's a book about Krishna, the Bhagavatam. And in both places, we see them in the same place. And that's so significant, because what is that place? That place is, he is the driver of Arjuna. Now, anyone who knows Indian culture, the lowest position is the driver. So I thought that was so significant. He's the driver. And why is he the driver? He's serving his devotee. So that the significant point is, in both places, where does it put our God? As the supreme personality of Godhead, not the supreme position of Godhead. The supreme personality. That the supremacy of God is in love and service, not in majesty and control, which is a nice message for us. So that's the point I was really making on how much is in the Bhagavatam and how it reciprocates you, and specifically the points that I saw yesterday. And how much expanded, like one simple verse would be, is, I mean, you can go in many, many ways, but Poganda, Krishna's age, Poganda, now he's 6 to 10. It's a certain demarcation of maturity. That's when children basically go to school. And now that enables him to take out the cows, which means he goes to the forest, which facilitates a more intimate level of relationships. And growth in body enables a higher and higher level of intimate relationships. So God, to facilitate love, manifests in various ways to facilitate that love, and so do we. The same person who is a child is a parent and a lover, and different aspects of themselves manifest. So it's a beautiful conception of divinity, that God is love, and love is manifest in relationship. And therefore, as Akila Rasamrita Murti, the introduction of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as Akila Rasamrita Murti, then he manifests to facilitate love, different aspects of himself. So the flavor and this rasa theory, which describes the ultimate reality as love in relationship. Love means concrete expression of love. You can't have love and say all is one. All is one, there's no love. Personalism, there's no love. Love is an illusion, because love is an exchange. Actually, I don't think people can embrace Advaita Vedanta impersonalism. If they are integral to what values they really hold. If you value love, you can't be an impersonalist. And of course someone will say, well, what about self-love? Well, that's just semantics. It's self-esteem. It's not self-love. You can call it love, but ultimately love means an exchange. So yes, you love yourself. You love yourself. It's not really loving yourself. It's valuing yourself. We should value ourselves. But love is for others. So God manifests. So anugraha, the flavor, Prabhupada said, variety is the spice of life, or is that it? Mm-hmm. Variety is the spice of life. He gave the example, you have milk and sugar, how much enjoyment there can be. But if you mix them together in so many ways, you get rubbery, sandesh, misty dahi, so many incredible things, rasa malai, burfi, beta. Oh, the days when I was young, when I could literally eat a box of sweets. So that variety of love in the spiritual world, love means relationship. So the flavor of love is, one of the flavors is anugraha, or mercy. So motherly love requires an object of mercy. Because the flavor of motherly love is, I am your maintainer. Just the consciousness of that love requires someone in need. And a child, a baby, is in need. And therefore the child invokes the greatest degree of motherly love. And therefore the nature of the mother is not to see the competence of the child, even when the child grows older. So Pakanda, he will go to the forest. And then, very interesting, and what that means is Samatau, they are appointed, they're appointed by their parents. I mean, Krishna had to get permission. And that itself is a story in itself. Because it's one word, appointed. But what is the history of that appointed? The history of the appointed is there is a resistance for Krishna's parents to see that now he is 6 to 10 and he can go to the forest. We described yesterday when he took, up until the age of 6, he took care of the calves which can only go a certain distance from home. They can only go, and they have to be back at 2 o'clock. Forest means far away, the forest means dangers. So Krishna's mother is resisting, but what is that tension? That tension is this motherly love, which is the ultimate reality and the ultimate enjoyment, rasa vaisaha, is this intense, overwhelming love. And that's what exists in the spiritual world through the manifestation of Krishna's Leela Shakti, which creates various pastimes to invoke the emotions that bring love of Godhead to this consuming, absorbing platform. And therefore Mother Yasoda is resisting, and then Krishna is getting older. And then he's appointed, they decide, they're forced to do it. So there's a whole history. I mean, even Krishna going out to the forest, and then, you know, his mother agrees because his older brother Balaram will go, who will protect him, and how many times Mother Yasoda ran out as he was going. What did he forget? You know, we have the reflection of these pastimes here connected to a certain type of love. But even that energy of love, it's that Shakti reflected in this world that's not absolutely eternal and existential. It's reflected in this world to an object that is temporary. So it's not the Sarup Shakti, when that energy of love is not vitiated by contact with either Brahman, where it becomes Brahmananda, which lacks the dynamicism of Ras, or the material world, where it becomes kind of a material pleasure, which means it's projected temporarily. Of course, we do have discussions of love within this world and how it can be connected to the divine when one does it in a devotional spirit. So and then you know it mentions Padai, Punya, Ativa, the Chakratu, Vrindavanam, the marks of Krishna's feet. They made extremely auspicious marks in the land of Vrindavan. So this word Padai, it has so much meaning. It's the essence of spiritual life. What becomes Ativa Punyam, extremely auspicious, is the contact with God. This is the actual physical contact, but there can be no physical contact without the consciousness to want that. But when there is contact with God, that is the goal of life, and that is the goal of life because it engenders the purpose of life, which is love. And love is an exchange. And the ultimate exchange is with the divine. And that's universal love. When you actually love God, it's not that you love one religion or another. You love every person appropriately in connection to God. So there's an energy. And that energy is invoked with connection to God. And that energy is the purpose of reality. The purpose of reality is pleasure. But what kind of pleasure? Love. And what kind of love? Universal love in connection with God. That is auspiciousness. That's why when Krishna sends the cowherd boys to beg from the Brahmins, says, Bhadram te, we're offering you some service. Auspiciousness. All auspiciousness to you. But why all auspicious to you, or all auspiciousness to you, the Brahmins? Why? Because it is connection with God through service. We are connected to God through service. Because our connection and our distance from God is not a physical distance. Our distance from God is a matter of consciousness. So how do you connect to God? You connect to God by the right consciousness. And what is the right consciousness? It is seva. And what is seva? Loving responsiveness to the Lord through the faculties of the mind, body, and words. That seva connects you. And so here it's ativa punyam. It's extremely auspicious. Padai, the feet of Krishna, the connection. We say service to the lotus feet. It means humble service. But also in the Leela, it indicates this relationship. It's relationship that connects to objects. And what is that relationship? That Krishna loves the earth. I was describing yesterday how this would be considered a very important environmental message in the Bhagavatam. Because Krishna is honoring the earth by not wearing shoes. He wants an intimate connection with the earth. He's reciprocating with the earth's love. Why? Because the earth bears the burden of the world, and all nourishment comes from the earth, including the nourishment for Krishna's cows. So Krishna wants to reciprocate with that love. Another thing I mentioned many, many times, what I heard in the one of Prabhupada's purport, that Krishna is responsive. Krishna is responsive. So he reciprocates with service by giving one his lotus feet, by giving one his connection, which invokes the nature of the soul, which is consciousness, which reaches its perfection in love and devotion. What other reality can be auspicious than heart of devotion and love? Objects in themselves are not auspicious. Relationships in themselves are not auspicious. But they become auspicious if they can facilitate a transformation of the heart, a satisfaction of the heart in love and devotion. So these feet of Krishna, these feet, and he wants to put them on the earth, and we explained how even when he goes out, he goes behind the cows. He goes behind the cows because the cows are trampling the earth. The cows are trampling the earth. And Krishna is putting his feet very gently. And then you have the Leela, because from every aspect, everything that's done in the spiritual world is love. We'll see, and again, I like to look at the reasonability of Krishna's pastimes from the sense that if there is a God and if there is a spiritual realm, then why would not everything move out of love? That is the principle that is universally accepted basically by everyone. That we're seeking pleasure and pleasure is love. And if you don't know that principle, you'll become disconnected from the soul. You'll just go for power. You'll accrue things for power, not for consciousness. And if you accrue things for power, it doesn't matter how much you can accrue. You'll still be disconnected from the soul. So this is the platform of auspiciousness. So there's love. Everything is coming from love. So Krishna loves the earth loves Krishna. The mother loves Krishna, Krishna loves his mother. And therefore, out of that type of flavor of love which he's offering to Krishna, out of that flavor of expression of love, she doesn't want Krishna to go to the forest. And what to speak of going to the forest? Going barefoot in the forest, with the stones and the thorns and the pointed rocks. But Krishna doesn't want shoes. Why? Ativa punyam chakratu. Punya ativa brindavanam. Punyam ativa. He wants to make the earth auspicious with the touch of his feet. And then I remember one commentary was explaining, so the mother was saying, "Oh, wear shoes." And then Krishna looks at it as love for the cows. I am servant of the cows. Therefore, the cows are my master. And a servant can't take facility above the master. Mother said, "I will get shoes, silver shoes for all the cows in Vrindavan." But then what does Krishna say? No, I want to touch that earth. I want that auspiciousness. So much here. And he's going with his friends. Here it says, he goes, the two of them, Pashu Pala, to protect the cows. Shakibi Saman, along with his friends. And that's another incredible relationship. And incredible relationship because the friends, they love Krishna so much because Krishna's all attractive. Krishna doesn't need a position to be in the center. He's in the center not by his position, but he's in the center by his beauty and the expression of that to please everyone. So they're reciprocating, and how do they reciprocate? Is kirtan. Because the main expression of love is the expression of love in kirtan. And the cowherd boys are singing, and so hopefully today the full video is there. We got to speak on this verse, and I really like this because I can give more Bhagavatam classes. So I think whenever I come here to Brooklyn, we have a little setup here, then we can give Bhagavatam, and that's really the joy. I have maybe 30 more seconds. That's the joy, Nashta Priyesha, giving Bhagavatam. And that also helps me because it activates my mind and gives me a frame of reference. Like I was traveling, I hadn't spoken for a while, so I said, okay, I'm going to speak today. What am I going to speak about? Once you go class after class and your mind activates, so it's 8 a.m. and Hare Krishna, and thank you very much. Jai.